guys, and welcome back to another video. And today we have a brand new monthly report for the month of October. There's a lot in this report to go over, so we're going to get right into it. Now, usually I kind of skip around the monthly report because not everything is as relevant. AI is usually one of those things that doesn't really make sense to go into too much detail about because it's one of those kind of background systems that the players are just going to notice updates to the way that NPCs behave, and this is generally a good thing, but we don't really need to know the tech that goes into all of that. But if you guys want to read this document yourself, I will leave it linked in the video description below so you guys can take a look at it in more detail. Now we have kind of a summary right here going over some of the updates for the AI stuff. So for AI content features, tech, game intelligence development team, landing zone fixes for 4.4 were completed. Social AI setup for Levski, including additional voice packs for future content, was done. Combat voice packs kicked off. The goal is to consolidate FPS and dogfighting triggers. Iteration on the first reaction and usable animations when items are being carried. Fixed crashes relating to human combat, simplified accuracy calculations, fire rate of burst and single shot weapons. Many bug fixes for the Yoramandi and improvements to the animation set. Improvements to nav mesh generation, the first implementation of the flight pathfinder through the voxel grid, and working towards the mission system V2 milestones. Now, the one thing that jumps out at me from this list is the first implementation of the flight pathfinder through the voxel grid. So basically what CIG was saying is that they're adding voxel technology to the way that space is subdivided. So voxel technology is the same technology that you'll find in games like Minecraft, where the entire world is based on cubes. And this is a good way to essentially create navigation paths through 3D space for a game like Star Citizen. So it's not that they're going to use voxel technology to, allow for mining and different things on planets, but what they're going to do is they're basically using this voxel technology to subdivide all of space so that you can kind of map and route, and so that they can make flight paths in 3D space along splines a lot easier. This is important for when planets actually orbit around the star, because as you guys know, the main reason why planets don't orbit right now is because of quantum travel. But if all of space is subdivided into a grid, then they can create dynamic, full-fledged quantum flight paths through space as the planet moves dynamically. So this is kind of just the first step to enable them to do a lot of other technology that is important for the future of the game. Okay, so we're moving down here into animation. Animation improvements for the Yoramandi and Copions. New animations for 4.4, including Levski ATC. Shoot with the narrative and mocap teams for new mission giver and Nyx NPCs. New mission giver will not appear until a future patch. So that's basically what they're saying here. For character art, there's finalization on various armors, in-game rewards, and exploring directions for a new gang. Now, kind of the big thing of this monthly report is ship art. Okay, so we're going to go into this in a little bit more detail, and you can kind of see the first image here. In the UK, the ship's team supported the release of the Anvil Paladin, Spear Stinger, and Grey Market Shiv at CitizenCon Direct. The first image we have here is of the Aurora rework. So as you guys know, the Aurora is being brought up to gold standard. And there's some interesting things about this image. We can kind of see a panel down here to open the door. I believe the chair has changed a little bit, and this is a different paint or skin. Not a full redesign. Obviously, some of us were, assuming that CIG might changed some things about the Aurora to kind of bring it up in line with the kind of Dorito wedge type design language that RSI is known for now. But the main thing that I want to say is interesting about this photo is that you can see that the background is the ironclad. So you could see the railing up here, the yellow railing. It apparently, they have this Aurora parked in the cargo area of the ironclad. That is very cool. Some other members of the community has pointed this out, and so I think they're showing us some sneak peeks. The ironclad seems to be far along. Work on the Aegis Hammerhead and RSI Aurora continue to bring them up to modern standards. For the Hammerhead design, are currently setting up the revisions, including the addition of blast doors throughout the corridors and updated component placement. The Aurora is currently awaiting downstream support, particularly for audio and VFX, as these feature some of the oldest in-game assets. Now, the blast doors, that's going to be really interesting because of the room system. And as you guys know, with engineering coming online, the room system is essentially a way for you to compartmentalize certain aspects of your ship so you can vent them. So if there's a fire in engineering, for instance, you can close these blast doors, you can vent that room alone and keep the atmosphere in the rest of the ship and kind of kill the fire. The hull B is currently being prepared for the white box review, with the final touches being made to ensure it hits the required functionality criteria. Very excited for the hull B. I'm glad that this is in production. Both Drake Ironclad models and the command module progress well into gray box, with geometry and lighting updates to the modular kits helping set the interior tone throughout. So this is kind of a really big one as well. I wasn't expecting both Ironclad models to be available, because we know the Ironclad Assault has that vehicle repair area, and I really didn't know if they would bother making the Assault variant or if they would wait until crafting is further along, allowing players to actually repair vehicles. So I don't know if that functionality is going to be online when the Assault is delivered, but we do know that CIG has been talking about crafting and trying to get tier 0 version of crafting out the door. I don't know when we're going to get that in our hands, if it's going to be before the end of the year or early next year. But I think it's safe to say that we could see the Ironclad early next year around Invictus, probably earlier, because again, CIG is releasing a new ship every month, or sometimes multiple new ships every month. So, you know, it could really come out anytime realistically between IE and Invictus next year. If it does, it would also make sense because CIG is also adding like different cargo holding missions with Nyx. So the Ironclad more likely be a ship that you would use, you know, with this interplanetary cargo holding stuff. And we can see an image here of what I believe is the interior of the Ironclad. Again, you can see that yellow railing and this kind of Drake aesthetic with the interior. This is probably some hallway in the main part of the ship, and it looks pretty far along. Again, this is something that we would see in the game today, so I'm very excited for that. 4 unannounced ships passed to October. The first is on track for its final review in early November, while the second is complete and currently with the downstream teams. We can kind of see this image here. This looks like some kind of pistons. This looks like a Drake ship, but who knows? It could be, you know, something else. But yeah, I think with this kind of yellow color scheme here, these kind of like exposed struts, kind of looks like a Drake ship, but I could be wrong. The third and upcoming variant passed its Large Zero review. Following this, the downstream teams began their tasks ahead of the final review. Art was also completed for an all-new ship before it continued down the pipeline, with paints being created alongside a full pass from QA. Another new vehicle, the Grey Cat UTV, which was briefly shown during the introduction of the STV, entered its white box review phase. And if you guys remember that ship, it basically looks like a side-by-side with a trunk, and then I believe it's one SU box that it can fit back there. So yeah, probably a little bit more useful. than something like a Drake Mule. But to me, ground vehicles is such a weird place. I really don't know why CIG is focusing on this. Again, I'm thinking it's just like an onboarding thing and to get, stuff off of the backlog. Finally, for the UK team, pre-production kicked off the Anvil Liberator. So this is huge. This phase is before official production begins and aims to get a solid base for the wider team to use the further estimation and concept requests to aid in smoother delivery. So if you guys remember the Liberator, this is a ship carrying ship. Also carry the larger ground vehicles in the game, like the tank and the ballista. It has, two small pads on top and one extra small pad on the front, and then two small, essentially hangers or slots inside. So you can, you know, in theory, carry 5 ships on this ship, right? And then it has a bunch of cargo on top of that. So I know a lot of people are interested in the Liberator. It also has a small crew requirement according to the specs, but with engineering, this crew requirement might go up. It also has jump seats because it's also a dropship. So I'm going to be very excited to see that. I know a lot of people are. Let me know in the comments down below if you have a Liberator and you're excited for it. The North American team progress with 2 unannounced vehicles. One is currently with downstream teams for closeout ahead of its final review, while the second is approaching gray box review in early November. Elsewhere, the RSI Perseus has a large-scale developer and QA playtest this month to check its robustness and intent for combat, which was a great success. So basically, they internally tested the Perseus, I guess to kind of balance it, because a lot of people were saying that CIG might increase the size of the guns on the Perseus. White box work continued on the Drake Kraken, with more developers moving on to it as other projects were completed. So this means that it's kind of, CIG is making a bigger push to get the Drake Kraken out the door, which is exciting. Okay, so then we have some more stuff here. Core gameplay. We're going to kind of skip the community stuff for now. With core gameplay, they're pushing forward on inventory revamp, specifically the area where players add weapons, mods, armor, and etc. We're bringing back the ability to have 2 weapons stored on your back while you hold a third in your hands. Then capital shift repair, rearm, refueled was worked on. Then with the economy, building the economy of Nyx, giving the system character, journal entry creation to guide players in freelance cargo trading. I think this is going to be really important in your Mobiglass. Several salvage missions adjusted for balance because, as you guys know, salvage was rebalanced. It's not in the best state right now, so we'll see what they do with that. Then we have graphics, VFX, Planet Tech, fixing many of the performance issues caused by running out of VRAM. VRAM usage still higher than they like. Genesis is starting to achieve the desired visual quality in several areas. Several in-progress systems to bring performance plus memory usage to desired levels. Okay. So then we have mission design, working with Frontier Fighters Finale, major loot refresh, updating UGF and distribution centers to give greater feature control, which I'm going to be interested in take a look at. Several new locations, space-based ship graveyards, and UGFs. So I think this is probably coming to Nyx. We're completed on accepting missions from the world, the ability to accept missions from physical items rather than the Mobiglass, maybe some type of tablet in the world or something like that, that will allow you to, get updated the mission when you get to the location. For narrative, final preparations for implementation of Nyx. So that's narrative. Then we have online technology is kind of interesting in this monthly report. Progression with item recovery tier 1 and early instancing. So tier 1 is important. That's kind of like I believe that's the warranty system, right? And early instancing, that's probably going to be Siege Voice and stuff. Progression towards the first iteration of new silver meshing tech with initial testing in early November. Players will not notice significant changes, but this is an important step leading towards dynamic silver meshing. So it's probably like back-end stuff. Then for R&D, down here, working on engine optimization for the PU, RAM usage improvements for material, constant updating, processing, and gas cloud lighting. Several optimizations to reduce number of draw calls, helping with shadow rendering and cost of planets. Again, I'm kind of just reading off of a summarization of what's here. And then, of course, VFX here, working to support upcoming vehicles. So for the roadmap roundup, we have new Wicklow ship offerings, the RSI Meteor and Guardian MX. And I'll put an image of that in right here. And then we have the Max Arcs Neutron Cannon and Art Refactors. So this is updating these weapons, and I'll leave an image in here so you guys can take a look at what those look like, those Art Refactors. And last, exterior freight elevators. This was something that we showed off in the last video. They are currently in Pyro, so I believe these missions will probably go from Pyro to Nyx. Yeah, that is the monthly report and the new kind of roadmap update. A lot of new stuff. Very excited about the Liberator. Extremely excited about the Ironclad as an Ironclad owner. I think the Kraken is going to be excited for a lot of people. That is being developed. Yeah, there's just a lot to look forward to. I think this year IE is going to be huge. Let me know what you guys think about all of this stuff in the comments down below. I love hearing from you guys and talking to you about this stuff. But that's going to be it for me in this video. I want to thank you guys for hanging out with me again. And as you guys know, like I always say, at the end of these videos, you guys like the video if you liked it. Subscribe if you want to see more. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Salute.